I may have made one of the dumbest financial decisions I've ever made at Edison Motors. Some of you may have seen that we were in the news today as part of a corruption scandal, and I would like to explain what happened. If you would like to read that news article for yourself, it was written by Rob Shaw, and this is the title of it. But let me explain what happened. So Edison Motors has never received a single cleantech grant from the BC government, even though we've applied for quite a few. The grant that started this controversy was the Commercial Vehicle Innovation Challenge, which was a grant for companies in British Columbia that are electrifying heavy-duty electric commercial trucks. We are the only company building heavy-duty electric commercial trucks in British Columbia. We didn't get the grant, but they did give us an option to have a meeting to discuss why we didn't get it. So of course we reached out. I'm blurring out people's names because I'm not here for the individual, but the Katrina thing is important. So Doug, a guy on our team, reached out to say that yes, we would like to talk about it, and then Katrina reached back. But this is where it got interesting. The Commercial Vehicle Innovation Challenge was care of MNP. And where the email had been at arcbc.ca, now the email had been at MNP. This was suspicious to us because we remembered that MNP was a company that reached out to us before to ask to write grants for us. And I remember telling them, no, sorry, we can't afford you. You're way too expensive. That's not even close to within our budget to be able to apply for these grants. So after this meeting, we found out that MNP was actually administering the government grants while asking if they could write our grants. So anyways, we had the meeting with MNP to discuss why we didn't get the grant awarded by them. And they basically said our timeline and budget were too ambitious. Our budget was too low and our timeline was too tight. They didn't believe that we could reasonably get the truck done in time, even though our budget was higher than what we built Topsy and the timeline was actually even longer than we built Topsy. We fully believed that we could make it because we had already done it before. Those were the two main issues. They said we had some of the best partners of everybody. We had a great project. They loved our project, but there was a few clerical errors in paperwork. Budget wasn't clear enough. It was multiple pages. Future market identifiers, we said, like heavy-duty trucks. It was a lot of paperwork and a few little things, and also they didn't get one application, which I submitted myself, so I don't know what happened there. Which basically, few paperwork issues, little bit of things. I mean, we're truck drivers. We're not experts at writing grants. I'll give them that. But where it's interesting is that after this meeting with MNP to discuss why we didn't get the grant, MNP had reached out to us and they set up another meeting to discuss why MNP should be writing our grants. As they stated, it was a 20% success fee of what we win in the grant for them to write our grants. And they strongly encouraged us that, hey, we will be successful if we go with MNP. Well, of course, MNP is deciding government grants. They straight up said that you're going to be a lot more successful if you get the company that's deciding government grants to then write your government grants. And you're going to pay 20% of whatever you win in the government grant back to them. At this point, if they were the ones deciding who got the government grants, we felt like we had no choice and we felt pressured to sign on to MNP for the incredibly high fees and the 20%. At this point, we had just received our VIN number and our license plate, which means that we had built the first heavy-duty electric truck ever made in BC and the first semi-truck made in BC since Western Star closed down about 30 years ago. So we were excited, and we had done it all without any government grants at this point. The government had actually invited us down to the legislative building in Victoria to say how cool it was and, introduce us. While we were there, we met with several MLAs, and they were excited, and they said, hey, has the government been supporting you? Have you gotten any grants? And we said, no, we hadn't received any grants. They said, that's weird. What you're doing is very innovative. You should be receiving some grants. And we explained what we've been dealing with MNP. Basically everything I just told you in that video before, we told those members of the Legislative Assembly. We gave them all the information we had. It wasn't just one political party. They all asked about it. We shared all the information and said, hey, this is interesting. If you want to look into it, here's what's going on. The company that's deciding the grants is also writing grants for companies applying for the grants. That seems shady. I believe a fundamental principles of Edison Motors is that we are open, honest, and transparent, and we wanted to show everything that was going on with the government because it felt morally wrong to just go along with the way it was doing and not share that information. So all the people had a chance to investigate it with the information we showed, and yesterday morning, you can see the video. It's the one video on our page before this. The government said, this is suspicious and we need to investigate it. The government wanted the government and itself to investigate what exactly was going on and if there was any issues. I mean, this is our tax money. It's where the carbon tax is going to. They said that, hey, if we're going to be collecting carbon tax, we need to investigate where those funds are and make sure they're not being misappropriated. The opposition party United, Conservatives, and Greens both came together to say that yes, we've looked at it, this is warranted an investigation. The current existing government that administrated it all unanimously said no, we are not going to do an investigation. So the current government that funds these grant programs just blocked an investigation to see if there was any corruption going on with the grant programs. Now this is where it gets a little personally annoying for me, but the minister in charge of these grants, who administers the grant programs, said in this interview, if there's evidence around a government grant, then would someone please provide that to us in our office? We met with her office when we went down to the legislative building. Her office is actually this office right here. Here's a picture of us that they took standing from her office. This picture can literally only be taken from this vantage point from her office. We were in her office to talk about these things. We said that we wanted to tell people about it because it felt morally really wrong. But they said no, they want to investigate it, don't say anything yet, let them look into it, let them investigate it. Well then, just a few hours after we brought this up in her office, we got this email saying that, hey, we're not proceeding with you on stage at our event next week. Here's the date, February 27th. Literally the exact same day. This event was run by Plug-in BC. Plug-in BC is funded through the minister's office who we just met with. So these are the people that canceled our speaking engagement about electrification of heavy-duty fleets. So when we brought this up to our office, all that happened was a few hours later, we got removed from their speaking list at their own presentation. So not only did they not investigate it, the very next day they sent out this email. This is from Sam at MMP, literally the next day. On behalf of British Columbia Minister of Mines, Low Carbon Innovation, we're pleased to pronounce you with this yada yada yada. Here's the form. You can pause to read what they sent out. But basically that minister has now hired MMP to provide an updated assessment of economic activities for zero emissions vehicles and to inform future funding opportunities of Clean BC. So not only did that minister's office meet with us, but then say that they never met with us, they canceled our speaking engagement at their event, and then the very next day announced that the company that we had questions about is now in charge of doing the economic assessment for the programs and recommending the future programs. And then yesterday, the members of the NDP government who are running these programs blocked an official investigation into the program. So there we go. We were asked by the opposition to not share this publicly while they were looking into it, but now that it's in the news, I feel like we can finally share what's going on. It might make a sense of the last videos, but honestly, questioning if it was the right idea. I mean, we just brought the information that we had up to them. It probably would have been smarter to go along, pay the company, get the grants, and bring in that money for the business because we need to build that new shop. We've got truck sales. We've got to get into production. We got to do a lot more testing. We got to fund these things. It would have been smarter to just pay it, go along with the way the system is, but it seemed morally wrong to me. I hope I made the right choice. It was probably a poor financial decision, but I wanted to let you guys know exactly what was going on.